All right, everybody, listen up. Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. My favorite part, how easy the meals are to cook, and, of course, how great they taste. How about some of these upcoming meals? Crispy wild Alaskan pollock and garlic mashed potatoes with roasted broccoli and tartar sauce, cheesy broccoli baked pasta with crispy thyme breadcrumbs, seared steaks, garlic butter with oven fries and romaine salad, roasted chicken and fall vegetables with cranberry and ginger compote. Choose from a variety of new recipes each week, or let Blue Apron's culinary team surprise you. Recipes are not repeated within a year, so you're never going to get bored. Customize those recipes each week based on your preferences. Blue Apron has several delivery options so you can choose what fits your needs. And no weekly commitment, gang, so you only get deliveries when you want them. Each meal comes with a step-by-step, easy-to-follow recipe card and pre-portioned ingredients, and can be prepared in 40 minutes or less. It's so easy. Blue Apron's freshness guarantee promises that every ingredient in your delivery arrives ready to cook, or they'll make it right. Check out this week's menu and get $30 off your first order with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/Mike and Mike. You're going to love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so do not wait. That's blueapron.com/Mike and Mike. Blue Apron, it's a better way to cook.
Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. Subscribe now by going to the Listen tab in the ESPN app.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
Here we are. We're back and better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, our final Football Monday. And we'll make it count off an amazing Saturday, which left us with a very clear picture, in my opinion, of the road to the Final Four and left Golic in dismay. Plus,
shut up.
An NFL Sunday in which Tom Brady continues to amaze while his Lex Luthor, the New York Football Giants, sink to an embarrassing new low. All those and more. Golic, how we feeling?
Not great. Not great.
That was a rough one.
It was a rough one. Listen, it was a great cut. You know, you look forward to the 7 ranked teams, and it turns out 8 teams in the top 25 ended up losing. Well, you knew at least 7 it was going to happen with ranked playing. The shame of it was certainly the game I was looking forward to, which was in the exact same field of the national championship game in 2013 when Notre Dame lost to Alabama. And just the destruction that was there. But Auburn and Georgia, I mean, kudos to Auburn, and we'll talk about them and what they have in front of them. But you sit there and wait for these games, you know, and then 2 of the biggest ones turn out to be blowouts. You know, the Alabama-Mississippi State game, what a game that was.
Terrific.
All the way down to the end. But that's the downside when you look forward to so many games and you want them to be great games. They can be blowouts, and then certainly when the blowout doesn't go in your favor, the team you're rooting for, there were visions of 2013 title game again, and that because it was the exact same field for Notre Dame playing Miami. That's where the title game was. It was just a different name then of the stadium. But to see a game that early get out of hand, you know, and you're just like, wow, all that build up, and they certainly build it up as well as should have been built up to have the Miami Notre Dame have a meaningful game again like that. And we'll talk a lot about it, but it was a tough night in the Golic house. Wherever a Golic was around the country at that point, it was a difficult evening.
Yes, those of us who are lucky enough to be on one of your group chats, I was seeing the text flying in, and I just sort of sat back and watched it all.
Entertaining, isn't it?
And there was a good deal of dismay, as you would imagine. And on the other side of it, obviously, everyone knows about our relationship with the Le Batard Show, and those guys are out of their mind.
Oh, you know,
Mike Ryan is out of his mind.
I didn't know Mike Ryan was that big of a Hurricane fan. And listen, they should be celebrating. I was happy I got a tweet back from The Rock, so I was excited about that.
That's nice.
You know, he had The Rock had a nice bet with Golden Tate. Now Golden Tate's got to wear The Rock's jersey when he was at Miami, and the turnover chain as well. I'll be wearing the turnover chain. Jeff Fiegels, who I played with at Philly, and he went to the U. His son punted very well. His son's a true freshman punter for the U, punted well in that game. I have to wear the turnover chain, and I have to send Jim Kelly 6 ribeyes as well. But it was was interesting.
Not going to lie to you. I hadn't noticed Miami punted much in that game. Did they punt?
Yeah, they. Okay, really?
Was there a lot of punting going on?
You want me to get you the number?
No,
it was multiple punts. And the reason I know that, because there were multiple punts inside the 20.
Okay, yeah.
Just like his dad did, Zach was doing as well. So I kept watching him going, you want to root for the kid. I've known this kid since he was tiny, and now he's punting against my team. There's part of me, I hope he shanks it. No, I know. I'm just kidding. I don't want him to shank it at all.
That was remarkable. It was an amazing college Saturday, and I will go through it because I'm going to see if you agree. I think the roads are pretty clear. The paths are pretty clear.
And I think it was going to get that way. And I think, as we'll get into, I think Wisconsin may be the biggest cheerer of all that Notre Dame lost.
Yeah, I think you're correct. And there's one little thing one monkey wrench that could get thrown into my plan, and we'll see where we get. But in the meantime, let's go off the top here and catch up on what happened. Let's start with some of the NFL action from yesterday. And Golic, you and your Philadelphia Eagles teammates were getting mentioned left and right as Dak Prescott was getting sacked left and right. Tell everybody why.
He got sacked 8 times Sunday. It's the most by a Cowboy quarterback since Troy Aikman in 1991. And Troy was doing this game. It was brought up at the end. In that game, Clyde Simmons, back in 1991 for the Eagles, had 4.5 sacks. Jerome Brown had 2.5 sacks. Mike Pitts had 1 sack. Reggie White had 1 sack. And a guy named Mike Golic had 2 sacks in that game.
How about that?
Yeah. That was, but I'll tell you what a day for Adrian Claiborne, who had 6 of the 8 sacks. One of them, he was dropped off into coverage, and Dak started to run, and he came up and got him right at the line of scrimmage for a sack. But I want to get more into this game and the protection scheme, with Tyron Smith. We talk about Zeke Elliott. Tyron Smith being out. Chaz Green started there. Byron Bell ended up going in later in the game. Claiborne was just wearing them both out, and I don't understand some things that went on and what may go on down the line with this. But man, kudos to Atlanta. Atlanta just absolutely took it to them offensively as well, put Dallas in a situation where they couldn't run as much as they wanted to, because when they ran, they were still somewhat successful running, but Atlanta, jumped out to that lead.
So it was an interesting game during the game, and also interesting before the game, as the two owners, Arthur Blank and Jerry Jones, were both on the field at the same time, and we will get into that
off the top,
in just a few minutes. In the meantime, the Saints destroyed the Bills in Buffalo yesterday. These were the two teams 2 weeks ago. Everyone was talking about, wow, look at the surprising Saints and look at the surprising Bills. And then the Bills laid an egg on a Thursday night against the Jets and then just got their doors blown off by New Orleans yesterday.
Let's just for a moment understand what's going on with the Saints. Okay, first, kudos to Dennis Allen, the D coordinator, is on a second stint with the New Orleans Saints. They held that Buffalo offense to under 200 yards. That defense has been playing lights out, and that's one of the monster reasons they are where they are. But on the offensive side of the ball, when you ever talk about Saints offense, who do you talk about? You talk about Drew Brees. Yesterday, this team rushed for 6 touchdowns, passed for none, and ran for 298 yards. The New Orleans Saints are the number 3 rushing team in the NFL, averaging 142 yards a game, and a great stat Hembo gave me before the game. What are you built for? We talk about a dome team. Are they built for the dome?
Right.
They are 4-0 outside, plus 87 in points, outside. And they're running the ball with the two head of Kamara and of Ingram, so they can run the ball, so they can be built to do the playoffs outside as well as in the dome.
Remember, this is the team that brought in Adrian Peterson during the offseason, and then it didn't fit at all, and they're running the ball.
The best thing that happened was them not even having him involved anymore to have to worry about giving him carries. Just let these other two guys do it. They are getting it done. I mean, they are absolutely getting it done. The Ingram and Kamara became the third set of Saints teammates to each record 100 rushing yards and rushing touchdowns in the same game. Hadn't been done since Reggie Bush and Deuce McAllister back in 2006.
Breeze didn't throw a touchdown, but he did run for one.
Yeah, he did.
Patriots, and we're going to start with this game right out of off the top, but they went to Denver and just took apart the Broncos in all 3 phases, and I emphasize that, A, because they always do, and B, because in this game, the special teams were an enormous factor.
Yeah, after the Denver answered a New England touchdown with a field goal, Deion Lewis went 103 yards with that kickoff return and just opened up. They had a 27-9 lead at halftime. That's just a position that's very tough to be in because Denver loves playing from ahead. That way their defense can just tee off. And Tom Brady even mentioned that after the game. He said you can't let that defense just be able to run loose, and they couldn't last night. 3 tight ends involved last night. Gronkowski had 4 catches. Bennett,
Martellus Bennett is back and better than ever.
Had the bad wing over in Green Bay and ended up out of there, had 3 catches. And Dwayne Allen had his first catch there, and it was for a touchdown. So the tight ends had 8 catches for 123 yards and 1 touchdown last night.
Off the top.
Elsewhere in sports yesterday, Tennessee fired head football coach Butch Jones. They're 0-6 in the conference this year. Look, everyone knew he was going to get fired. It was just a question of when. So the questions now might become who replaces Butch Jones at Tennessee.
Yeah, Dan Mullen's name has come up a lot, the head coach at Mississippi State, who they almost pulled off the upset of Alabama. Mullen's name is going to come up for the Tennessee job, for the Florida job. He's doing well there in Mississippi State. And actually, my son, first and last, brought up a good question, and it's a universal question, is what do you want to do? Mississippi State, you win 9 games a year. He said they may build a statue for you over time. You do that in Florida and Tennessee and not be in the mix for anything, you're not going to last very long. So it's what direction do you want to go? But for Butch Jones, it's out. He was 0-5 in his time against Alabama, 1-4 against Florida, 2-3 against Georgia, 2-2 against Vanderbilt. Since the SEC formed, Tennessee has had 3 30-point losses in the same season. Only 3 times. 2 of those have been under Butch Jones, including this season. So
they've been getting work.
Yeah, it was going to happen.
Off the top.
And finally, after their convincing win over Notre Dame on Saturday, Miami jumped all the way up to number 2 in the AP poll behind Alabama. That is the highest ranking for the U since 2003. We'll, of course, get the updated college football playoff rankings tomorrow night on ESPN. And in just a little while, Mike and I will tell you what we think.
Yes.
Where we think these teams should fall right now. Let's make that off the top with Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. They'll compare rates for you so you get the best deal even if it's not with Progressive, saving you time and money. Now that's Progressive. Call or click today. And I mentioned the Patriots beating the Broncos last night with the all 3 phases. It wasn't just the kick return. They blocked a punt.
Yes, they did.
Denver muffed a punt.
Right.
So it was really just a disaster. The Broncos, everything that possibly can be going wrong is going wrong. They've lost 5 straight games, and they've fallen pretty much hopelessly out of everything.
Yeah, they really have. We thought, a lot of us said at the beginning of the season that we thought that there would be 3 teams from the AFC West in this: Kansas City, the Raiders, and the Broncos. Now the Broncos and the Chargers both have only 3 wins. They're 3-6. What a loss for the Chargers that was yesterday.
They find new ways to lose games.
It's inexplicable sometimes of what's going on with them. But the Chiefs, the only team in that division with a winning record, sitting at 6-3. The Raiders second at 4-5. So you're not getting 3 out of there, that's for sure. And with the Broncos, listen, the bottom line is they have quarterback issues. And you could say that about a number of teams in the NFL. What's tough for them and for Bronco fans is you have a really good defense who we've seen play really well. And until you can get the offense to come to the table a little bit more, even though because they're going to hang on to the fact that they won a Super Bowl leaning on their defense when the offense between Peyton Manning and Brock Osweiler wasn't really getting it done. The defense isn't playing to that level, but it's still a really, really good defense, but it plays so much better from ahead, which most defenses really do. But especially when you have pass rushers like the Denver Broncos do, and they just don't have an offense right now that can put enough points on the board to get them in that position.
And bear in mind, their defense hasn't played well either, and maybe they're just kind of packing it in a little bit, seeing the hopelessness of what they're trying to do. But last week was the week, my favorite stat of the week. The Broncos went into their game in Philly last week as the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL, and the Eagles scored so many points they ran out of fireworks. They couldn't shoot off fireworks anymore in Philadelphia because they had run out. That's how many points they scored. They scored 51. The Patriots scored 41 on them yesterday, and afterwards, Tom Brady, in typical Tom Brady fashion, talking about all 3 phases.
I thought we did a good job really staying balanced. I thought playing from ahead was really important all night. We played really good complementary football. Special teams played great, defense played great, and then, we just tried to hold up our end of the bargain. It was a great team win. When we play well, it looks pretty good, and it's probably been more uneven the first 8 games of the year, and tonight was, a really good night for us. So, hopefully we can build on this tonight and, gain some confidence, in all 3 phases, which we played well in all 3 phases.
Obviously, Tom left right there to go to a Sprockets throwback shoot.
Oh, did you see? I thought he looks fantastic. I thought he was going for an audition to play James Bond in the next Bond movie.
He does. You could do it multiple ways. You could do that or a Sprockets reunion, whichever way you want to go. But you can't make mistakes like that against the New England because New England doesn't make mistakes. Though what they do is they capitalize on your mistakes, and when you're handing the ball to them occasionally, you know that this is going to be the ending for you. And again, I'll say, where are the Denver Broncos at the quarterback position? At some point, they're going to have to find out what Paxton Lynch can do. He's had that shoulder, so he hasn't really been physically ready to go, which then leads the coach to say then he's not really mentally ready to go because he hasn't been out there able to do anything. So at some point, they're going to have to find that out and redistribute that quarterback position.
And our friends at Sport Clips ask us to pick an MVP moment of the weekend. It's brought to you by Sport Clips. You watch sports, we cut hair. It's perfect. Sport Clips, it's good to be a guy. And let's give it to Tom Brady because I saw a statistic that is just ridiculous. We all talk about what happens to athletes when they get to reach a certain age. From the time Tom Brady turned 39 years old, he has thrown 47 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. 47 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. And actually, Hembo, put that into some context for us. Over the last 2 seasons, over that span, there have been 9 instances of a quarterback throwing at least 4 interceptions in a single game. 9 times, someone has thrown 4 picks in a game. Brady has thrown 4 picks over that span on 775 passing attempts. Brady has legitimately gotten better. Yeah. There isn't any other way to describe it. You can say, oh, well, no. He's gotten better as he's gotten to be this age, which is ridiculous. And right now, Carson Wentz and Brady, I think, are the 2 leading candidates for MVP of the league. He's 40 years old, and he is 100% one of the leading candidates for MVP of the league.
TB12, man, buy in. TB12.
Well, I mean, it's almost impossible not to at least some degree. What he's doing is unprecedented. It should be pointed out. All of us who said, well, it's unlikely that he'll do this, we weren't wrong, and we have to continue over the course of months. But the reality is he is doing stuff right now that has never been done before.
He's doing it right now, which, again, would have led you to what's going to happen next year. You're not going to have him be your starting quarterback next year, and the whole Jimmy Garoppolo thing, you would have had to pay him or found a way around that. No need there. Garoppolo from the San Francisco side, maybe in another few weeks you may see him on the field. Really quick, Brady took over the top of another list. It was his 86th career regular season road win. He passed Peyton Manning for the most by a starting quarterback in NFL history. So he'll just
have every
record. Up the record.
By the time it's done, he'll have every meaningful record. And let's see, the only one I think at this point he cares about is can he add another ring or
exactly
2?
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know why anyone would bet against him or them the way they look right now. So that's one side of the ledger. As I mentioned, his Lex Luthor, has been Eli Manning and has been the New York Giants. The 2 teams, the 2 times they lost in the Super Bowl, they lost both games that I think they were expected to win. They lost to the Giants. They won't have to worry about that this year. The Giants have sunk in consecutive weeks to embarrassing new lows. First giving up over 50 points in a lifeless performance last week at home against the Rams, then going out and playing a winless 49er team and losing yesterday 31-21.
Yeah, it was not pretty at all. San Francisco put up 474 yards against them. I mean, it was just you've run out of words to kind of describe it anymore. Eli Manning was sacked 3 times in this one. They did rush for over 100 yards if you want to go down that road, but San Francisco ran for 186 yards on them. The one part of the equation that you normally could count on for the New York Giants was their defense. We were just singing their praises last year to the money they spent, the draft picks they had, all coming together. And, man, this was the time. You had Eli at quarterback. You certainly had the receiver in Odell Beckham, and we've seen how that's all gone. But the defense isn't playing as well either. The offense can't really help a whole lot, and the defense isn't really doing a whole lot either. You always say you're in a game because if you had that good defense, but they're not playing that way right now. So it is just – listen, it's fallen apart. We talked about last week the players that are speaking up anonymously saying that the coach has lost it. Others have now come out publicly saying those guys are cowards, and our coach, while there's a struggle, think we can get it back. It's just a mess. I think we all know the end game here. Like we all knew Butch Jones was not going to be the head coach of Tennessee next year. It was just a matter of when. And I would say the same thing in New York. And, you never like to call for somebody's job, and I'm not calling for his job because I have nothing to do with his job. But it's going to end there. I don't think that's really a reach to say that. It's just a matter of when that's going to happen. Are they going to do it during the season? We had Shefty in here saying normally things like that maybe start to happen after Thanksgiving, giving it that amount of time. We'll see. But to me, that's the only question. There are two questions. One's bigger than the other. One is going to be, when is McAdoo fired? Is it during the season or after the season? And then the next, the bigger one, what goes on with Eli Manning? Eli Manning, I think, is going to start the rest of the year unless Ben McAdoo gets fired before the end of the year and they decide we're going to see what we have here. It's going to be an interesting situation. But that, to me, is the bigger question going forward.
Absolutely. And we're going to get to a bunch of sound bites on that. I want to save and make sure that we have plenty of time to get into them in depth because I think there's a lot to it. But you said you've run out of words to describe it. One word that people are using to describe it is quit. People are looking at the effort or lack thereof on that Giant defense. They have given up in their in the last two games, they have allowed 4 passing touchdowns of over 40 yards. They're getting run over. They do not seem to be racing to the ball, giving great effort, all that kind of thing. Josine Anderson got a text from one of those sources yesterday saying, I tried to warn you this was going to happen. There are people who are assigning what really is the nastiest 4-letter word in sports to the Giants right now, and the word is quit.
That is. You get that tag to you as an athlete. There's not a whole lot worse than that. And for some of those guys, and listen, we're not in that locker room. We don't know who they are. You're playing for your next coach. But some guys, because of their contracts, they're going to be around, right? I mean, that's just the way it works. A team is not just going to get rid of them and have all that dead money count against them. So some players, by the draw of their contract, are going to be around. I'm not saying that those are players that people are saying this about, but there are some players who know they're in a different position than others. There are many players in that locker room that are playing for their jobs, that a new coach is going to come in at some point and look at tape and say who we keep and who we getting rid of, knowing full well they have to keep X amount of players because of their deal.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Twitter reaction, 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Marcus Ribcakes tweets, after the 49ers win, the Browns now control their own draft destiny.
Yeah, they do.
The last winless team.
Last winless team sitting at 0-9. You have the Giants with 1 win, the 49ers now with 1 win as well. Still a lot more games to be played.
Stunning,
so we can see how the top of the draft plays out.
And you see the Browns. Did you see the way the first half ended of their game yesterday?
Well, that's what I said. Browns doing Browns things. I mean, when you can't get out of your way, you're creating a lot of – because I agree, the players
they play every game like it's the Super Bowl. They do. They have not quit at all.
And they were in this game. There's no doubt they were in this game.
I thought they were going to win that game.
I did.
I really did.
And what happened at the end of the half with a quarterback sneak and no timeouts and Detroit doing exactly what they should do, lay on the players.
There was no way that was the play, right? There was no way that was the play they actually wanted to run.
That was the play. No, it was horrible.
Everything about that was just awful. Kevin Westra tweets at us, looks like the New York Giants are definitely tanking. Here's what I'll say. I do not believe the Giants are tanking.
No, I don't believe they are either. They have players hurt, and it's not like they're bent. Well, I know that the coach has suspended some players, but the coach isn't going to do it to put his team in a worse position because he's fighting for his job as well.
But I will say this. So let me get into that then. Louis Riddick, while that game was on, Louis Riddick tweeted, seeing some real-life in-game quit on my TV screen right now. Now, quit is a bad word.
Yes, it is.
Quit is probably the worst word you can associate with a professional athlete or a professional team. It is the reason that tanking should not be tolerated. The one thing that we're going to still disagreeing on is just how big a deal tanking is in the NBA.
Right.
And to me, tanking is no different from quitting. You're supposed to be out there trying to win. And so,
well, no. It's much different. Just real quickly, tanking is an organizational thing. It's not a player thing. What Lewis is talking about is players on the field.
I understand that. But it is organizationally the same thing. It's not trying to win. That to me is
way worse.
Way
worse if you're talking a player on the court. As far as I'm concerned, if an organization is trying to put their team in a position to get a higher draft pick, that's been somewhat deemed acceptable. Players quitting on a field is never acceptable.
Fair enough.
I just want to.
They're not exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
I will grant you that. But so particularly not to get as sidetracked as I feel we were about to get.
I didn't mean to.
The point is that Louis Riddick is insinuating that players on the team are quitting. Now, I can't sit here and do that. I'm not watching the All-22. I'm not trained to see the things that you guys are trained to see. But even I can see that there are times out there where the guys are running by them and they just seem to be standing and watching. Now, they're not literally standing and watching, but there is an element of just racing to the ball and all the flying to the football and things like that you see in the NFL and on the college level on defense every single week that sometimes it feels like you're not seeing from the Giants.
When you don't see 100% effort or very close to it, then I think it looks like obviously dogging. And as I said before, places that it shows up are away from the play, especially for a defense when you're taught from day one to pursue the football. You start to it's hard. I'm going to try and differentiate here, and I don't know if it's going to make a difference, the differentiation. If a play is coming at a defender, I find it hard to believe that I can sit here and say that player isn't trying when the play is coming right at him. When a man is blocking you or a runner is coming at you, that you basically are quitting and not trying in that instance. Where I see it and where I said is the backside. Is if a play is going right, it's the other side of the defense. Are you sprinting to the ball? And when you're not, that shows up. You know, we see it on film all the time anyway. Even when people aren't accused of quitting, you see a lack of hustle, and it gets highlighted in a defensive meeting. I tell you that much. The same could be said on offense. What are you doing backside as a lineman, as a tight end, as a receiver? You know, are you giving that maximum effort? You're supposed to cut a guy off. You trying to cut him off, or you just kind of throwing a shoulder in there? Are you really throwing to try and get him? You know, if you're that receiver, are you trying to stalk block your guy really well? What if that back cuts back? Your guy make the tackle. That's where I see those things. But to me, I am trying to separate it on the field. If a play's coming at you, man, I find it hard to believe to sit there and say, oh, yeah, in a physical sport, in a violent sport, when a play's coming at you, that you are just quitting on what's going on. Is there less hustle by some? I completely agree that there is. But that's a hard word to use on people in quitting, that's for sure.
Well, if there's one thing, maybe we could soften it to say the Giants do not appear to be giving maximum effort.
Right.
And a lot of people will associate that with the coach. Here's the coach, Ben McAdoo, comments that have been widely interpreted negatively.
We have to do one thing first. We have to take a look at the tape first. We have to figure out what went wrong. We got to address it. We got to fix it. We got to move on. And we'll talk about motivation next week. They're pro football players. They need to be self-motivated. Everybody gets a paycheck this week, and we need to go out and play that way.
So, on one level, that's not arguable.
No,
of course.
It's not.
You're supposed to be motivated to go out there and play. You're a professional. You're supposed to give it your all. But then there's another level that says, if your job as the coach is not to motivate the team, what is your job exactly?
Here's my thought on that, is coming off of why, you sit there and say, what should you say, what should you not say? And a lot of people would say, listen, a few players anonymously called him out. He just publicly called out players as well and say, why are you doing that or whatever. You know my thought on that. If I need a coach to motivate me, I'm in the wrong business. Now, it's nice if a coach can say something that helps you want to run through a wall. I get it. But from what he said, he's right. You should motivate. You should be able to motivate. You should be able, as a professional athlete, to get yourself ready to play a game. A coach motivating you on top of that, to me, is icing on the cake. But if I'm not ready to play a game, there's no way I'm looking at the coach and saying, well, you know what, he didn't really motivate me to play. So now it's whether you say that or not, coming off of anonymous players calling you out. Now, he basically just said, hey, players got to be motivated themselves. You know what this is what we're seeing is the end of something. This relationship is going to end. Every word will be parsed. Nothing's going to get better here, and then it's just going to end.
But you're 100% correct, and I'll take it a step farther. That comment is the reason why this relationship has turned sour, because Ben McAdoo is the king of pointing a finger at his players. All right, it goes all the way back, and we talked about this at the time when he called out Eli Manning's sloppy quarterback play.
Right.
And Eli rose above it, took the high road, because that's what you do. You don't point the finger at somebody else. Ben McAdoo, in that comment, is taking no responsibility himself. Right? How about, you know what? Yeah, it's all our job, or whatever the case is. They're professionals. It's their job to be self-motivated. We'll look at the tape and make the corrections. That is a lot of pointing the finger, which I think the perception in the Giant locker room, if you listen to the quotes, if you listen to what the players are saying to Josina, take out of it the fact that you don't like that they're saying it.
But what they're saying.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But they're not saying it because they're making it up.
No, as we said last week, what they're saying is probably true.
He's throwing us under the bus left and right. And that comment right there is a perfect example of it. They're supposed to be self-motivated. Okay, coach, so you didn't do anything wrong. Got that. Check. Move on. That I think, is the perception that a lot of people seem to have about McAdoo's idea in New York.
So this is a classic example of this team had 11 wins last year, and we didn't hear any of this.
Right.
This is a classic example of losing shows a whole lot.
Yeah.
Losing shows players who feel they need to make anonymous coach, which I think is embarrassing, and it leads a head coach when things start to go bad to point fingers elsewhere. So that's what you find out. As we said, when things are going good, character is not tested. Character is tested when things are going bad, and a lot of people are failing the test right now in New York.
Here's Ryan Clark with his thoughts on Ben McAdoo's comments.
Coaching matters. And when you have a guy like McAdoo, Ben McAdoo, that gets on there and say, you know what, they should inspire themselves and everybody gets a paycheck. He is the prime example of coaching matters because he feels like that's not his job to do, but it is. And when guys do their job the right way, as Lewis was saying, the turnarounds can be quick. He started his tenure throwing people under the bus, whether it was Odell with some of the things he was going through, the off the field and the sideline issues, or Eli Manning not playing a certain way. And he's continued to do that. The thing is, bro, you're in charge of coaching this team. You're not doing your job either. Point the finger at yourself, and now the guys will rally around you. Mm-hmm.
You know, again, a lot of people ask why can't these people tell the truth? Why can't a player say what he said? I would rather him say it, putting his name to it. On Countdown, I heard Charles Woodson say that he did that in the locker room when he did put his name to saying he thought a coach, was done, basically. But people say, why can't they say that? And people will say, why can't McAdoo say players should motivate themselves? Because, in my opinion, that is true. Players should motivate themselves. As I said, if you can get extra from the coach, great. But you shouldn't be relying on the coach to get you ready for a game. But the reason you don't say that, and the reason you just say it's on the coaching staff, it's on everybody, we need to do it collectively as a team, because now, where this is now, what do you think everybody's going in there and talking about? Nobody's talking about the game anymore. Nobody's talking about what needs to be fixed. Everybody's talking about this. Did you hear what our coach just said about us? And then when the media gets in there, and the media will have every right to do it, that's their job. Hey, what did you think about what McAdoo said? You got to motivate yourself. As opposed to last week when you're talking to other players, what do you think about your teammates being anonymous saying this? And those players speaking out, calling their own teammates cowards for doing it. I mean, that's what you're talking about then. So how bad it is, it just spirals worse. What you're trying to do is you're trying to dig out of a hole. But all they're doing is they all have shovels in their hands, and they're just digging the hole deeper. That's what happens when you say those kind of things, which seem like, well, what he's saying is the truth. But there's reasons you don't say it. Everybody should be helping everybody else out of the hole instead of digging the hole deeper. Hey, everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Hey girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Here we are. It's that kind of morning. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests coming on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, including Jeff Saturday, Booker McFarland, Gus Malzahn, and the one and only Magic Johnson. Very quickly, just to try and keep catching up on things as we stay on top of all of the sports news of the day, primarily the football news. We just showed on TV during the break the flashback to when you did the Ghost Pepper Challenge, when you ate those burgers. at the loss of one wager. Then last Thursday, you ate that chip thing just because you felt like it. That wasn't even a bet. Which was worse? Was the Carolina Reaper Pepper or the Ghost Pepper Challenge? Which was worse?
The Ghost Pepper, where I ate the burger and then dipped it, that burned like going down the to the chest into the stomach. The chip, it stuck in my mouth. My mouth was absolutely on fire.
For how long?
For a little while. I mean, probably for a good hour, and then by later in the day, it like bypassed like the esophagus and right to the gut. Later that day, the gut was not good. I can't believe Trey ate another one on NFL Live later that day. Trey Wingo. There was a lot of controversy and with the drop chip when it broke in half. Did he switch the chips? Because he was the one who said he brought a fake chip. Idiot, why he would say that. He even admitted he was. But he said he ate the chip. So he said, just to prove I ate the chip, I'll do another one during NFL Live. And he did. And it really, and you saw him eat it. And, I mean, it barely affected him. I was stunned at how well he and Damian took it. I was my mouth was hot. My son, Mike, might as well have just melted on stage.
Yeah.
It was just horrific.
And you guys did it. I mean, you went with it. So that's the toughness to see. Mikey looked like he melted. I mean, his face was melting on television. So, yes, Trey's a cyborg. I mean, he's not even a human.
Unreal. He did two chips that day, and I was with him the next day in New York. Let's just say it affected him then.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So he was feeling it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, it makes me feel a little better because otherwise I was a little bit concerned about his overall humanity.
We were all feeling it.
All right, Mike and Mike brought to you by Upside.com, giving all business travelers the gift of a better travel experience this holiday season. Upside.com. I also did not leave you enough time there, and that was my fault towards the end of the hour, to just give a thought on all the machinations that we saw over the weekend with Jerry Jones and Arthur Blank and Roger Goodell. Again, if you're just joining us, we played you a little sound from Jones. Jerry Jones' team played Arthur Blank's team yesterday, coincidentally and ironically based upon the sort of war that is now at least perceived to have been set up between those two over Roger Goodell's contract, and they did not interact at all, which was said by everyone to be unusual for two owners at the same game not to shake hands and say hello. They did not do so yesterday. What is your takeaway from the weekend?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, to sit there for people to say, well, Jerry Jones is just, he's wrong in this, he's going to lose in this. I think he is, but don't sell Jerry Jones short, okay? Jerry Jones has won some battles, including the type of soda that he pours in a stadium, to not giving back money if ratings are down, way back when a TV deal was done, when the league was thinking about doing that and he fought not to. He's had some victories. There's a reason his franchise is valued at what it is, which is one of the highest, if not the highest.
It is the highest
in all of sports.
In all sports, yeah, not just the NFL.
This guy knows business. But here, I think I don't think he's going to win this, because one of the things, you have other owners in here who he is now basically challenging. There is a 6-person committee in the compensation committee who he basically said, I will serve you papers if you do this deal. And they were like, you're going to serve us papers? And he was like, yes. So, I mean, that is a direct line in the sand challenge from one owner to other owners. And basically what he wants is this new contract for Roger Goodell. He wants Roger Goodell out. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But he wants all the league, all the owners to approve it when this committee was made up, and this committee has the power to get the deal done. And to me, I don't think that's going to change. I don't think the other owners are going to acquiesce to Jerry Jones in this and say, you know what, Jerry's right. We all want to see it. This compensation committee was put together to get the deal done. You saw the reports out there that Roger Goodell's counteroffer was $49.5 million, a private jet for life, and health insurance for his family for life, which they are, the
NFL steadfastly
denies that. I had heard other numbers in there of things that they're talking about. Bottom line is, I think this thing is going to get done. I think this committee of 6 is going to get the deal done, and Roger Goodell will be extended and be the commissioner. And then what will Jerry Jones do? Is he going to pursue this? Will he continue to try and fight it? I have no idea. So that, to me, is the bigger story. To me, is where does that leave the relationship? You saw Robert Kraft and what he went through with Roger Goodell, with the whole year-long and more than a year thing with Tom Brady, where basically he had to end up taking it, right? Robert Kraft, the $1 million fine, the draft picks, losing his best player, and you come out of it the other end. You win the Super Bowl. It's pretty darn nice, and you kind of, I don't know where they are relationship-wise, but you come out of it and you keep on going. Jerry Jones is going to continue to be the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. And right now he has threatened to serve papers to other owners. Now, this isn't Al Davis. We've seen Al Davis do this. We've seen him sue the league on moving and all that. So it's not the first probably or the last time. But, Jerry has been successful, and Jerry is trying to put his foot down on this one.
I'll say this. Arthur Blank has had some satisfying wins during his tenure as owner of the Atlanta Falcons. I'm guessing yesterday was high on the list.
A big one.
And I'll ask you again, just to wrap up that game before we move on to others. Did we learn more about the Falcons in that game or about the Cowboys? The Cowboys felt like they were sort of on the rise. Now they lose Ezekiel Elliott, obviously, and it appears that's going to finally stick one way or the other. And then they played the game yesterday without the left tackle, and they just got humiliated on that spot. And then you have the other side, you have the Falcons, who had been going through, whether it was post-Super Bowl hangover or whatever, they had been an extraordinary disappointment through the first half of the season. And yesterday, they looked like a team that could make a run. Do you buy more into what we saw from the Cowboys yesterday or from the Falcons?
Well, I think more from the Falcons. Again, they did this last year in making their run to the Super Bowl. The defense got pressure on the quarterback. The offense put up points. So that's kind of what we saw yesterday.
They did it all last year. I mean, this year they haven't been doing that.
But you figured it was a lot of the same players, so you wondered if they were going to round into that. And, it looks like, at least for this game, let's go forward here and see where it goes. I mean, they put up 27 in this one. For Dallas, listen, they averaged over 5 yards a carry, right? 21 carries, 107 yards. They still ran the ball decently well. They didn't run it as much. I was surprised. I thought they would run it a little more. It's not like the game was out of reach. It's a 10-7 game at halftime, a 17-7 game going into the fourth quarter. So, and I thought they were running the ball well when they ran it. Here's what I didn't understand. People said, okay, Tyron Smith is out. So should you put Zach Martin, who's a right guard, but he played left tackle at Notre Dame for years and was the best lineman in the country and can play left tackle. You put him there. And I get why you don't. You heard a lot of old linemen come out who are in the media now saying, and I agree with it, you don't want to basically what you say is weaken two positions. So now you have a backup at left tackle, which would be Zach Martin going over there, and you'd have to put your backup at right guard. So technically you're weakening two positions. Mm-hmm. So you basically keep everything the same, put the backup over at left tackle, which is what they did with Chaz Green. Chaz Green was battling with Jonathan Cooper at left guard and Cooper got that job, and Chaz Green, so he's out there playing left tackle and getting worked. Listen, he was getting worked by Claiborne, and toward the end, Byron Bell went in the left tackle, and the same thing happened. What I don't understand is where are adjustments? I said this early about the New York Giants, when their line was struggling and giving Eric Flowers some help, they have more problems. Certainly this Dallas line is a fantastic line. But you're seeing your left tackle get beat time and time and time again. Why don't you help? They go two tight ends 30% of the time, but they don't use them a lot to help in those situations. You just kept seeing, and this is their offense. This is what they're going to say. Our line blocks. We don't do a lot of that because our line blocks. Well, you got backup in, and he's getting whooped. And Chaz Green, to his credit, stood up there after that game and said, this is self-inflicted. I need to get better. I need to do better. I feel it was on me. He stood up there and he wore the hat of responsibility. But where are you in adjusting to that? Where are you in chipping Claiborne instead of letting him run around time after time after time after time without doing anything about it and just saying that's the way we block? I mean, to me, that's a failure in adjusting to what's going on. When we had our 11 sacks, it was all down linemen. We had 5 of us. Now, Clyde had 4.5, Jerome had 2.5, I had 2, Pitts had 1, Reggie had 1. It was spread out. This was 8 sacks. Claiborne had 6 and more, and hits as well. Kept running around the tackle, so adjust a little bit to this. And if you're not going to adjust, and you're going to miss Tyron Smith, he's going to miss more games, and you're just going to leave that left tackle on an island, then I'd say put Zach Martin over there. I'd say put a guy over there who would be better than the guys that you put there over at left tackle and put in one of them at the right guard position, but you can't keep getting beat like that. You can't without adjusting somehow, some way. You just let the guy do it over and over and over and over again. Your left tackles were obviously overmatched, and to me, you didn't do anything to help them.
So Atlanta with a big win in that NFC South race. We'll see what happens with Carolina as they play tonight, and New Orleans has just been phenomenal.
Incredible.
As they went into Buffalo yesterday and just thumped the Bills with 6 rushing touchdowns in the game. A weird day in the NFL. And one other final thought on that, and then we'll get more into it when Jeff Saturday. Has there ever been a rookie who had a more obvious impact than what Deshaun Watson obviously had in Houston? Deshaun Watson, he doesn't start the first game, and they look like they're going to have one of the worst offenses in the league. And then he comes in, and they look like they have the best offense in the league. And he goes out, and they're the worst offense in the league again. It's unbelievable. I mean, Deshaun Watson, his value has increased exponentially from the time that he got hurt and got knocked out for the season.
Yep.
They're impossible to watch without him.
Yeah, they are. Even the last game that he played, their offense, they lost the game 41-38, but their offense put up 38 points, and he threw
They
for
lost
over
a bunch of
400
games.
yards.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
In New England, he played an unbelievable game that they lost, and there was one more. What was the other game they lost? Oh, the Kansas City game. They scored a ton of
34
points, and he played great.
Yep.
He played great in every game he played in.
He did.
He played absolutely great. He actually could still be the Rookie of the Year. You could make an argument for him in the same way that you could have made an argument last year for Embiid, who only played 31 games to be Rookie of the Year.
I get it. He won't, but I get what you're saying.
Who was the rookie? Was it Malcolm Brogdon, the Rookie of the Year in the NBA last year? They're going to give it to somebody else this year. And look, there are good other options.
Yeah, there are.
But none of them were more valuable to their team than Deshaun Watson.
Really showing up. I agree with you.
All right, we'll talk to Jeff Saturday about that when he joins us. Coming up shortly here, Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance, creators of the Name Your Price tool. Choose from a range of coverage options and pick the price that works for you. I want to get to the college here because it was a spectacular college Saturday, and I will give you my road to the Final Four in a moment. To me, it's pretty simple, except for one thing. There's one thing that could complicate the whole thing. But before we get to that, I think everyone wants to hear your read, your take on the Notre Dame-Miami game, which was stunningly one-sided.
Yeah, it was. Miami winning that one 41-8. By the way, Zach Vigil's punted 4 times. I know you were questioning.
Fair enough.
Did they even punt
they
in
were
this
all
game?
At the end, I think.
Again, I lost the bet.
Garbage time punting.
Jeff, who played with me in Philadelphia, I have to wear the turnover chain when he sends it up here. Listen, do nothing but give all the credit in the world to Miami. Herbie said it at one point, and it seemed like it. It seemed like there were 15 guys on defense for Miami. They swarmed. They were more athletic. They were faster than Notre Dame. They just were. Plays getting run down. Notre Dame was averaging, 320-some yards a game rushing. They could do nothing in this game. They were getting run down from the backside. It seemed like there were more to block on the front side. So, do you say what kind of adjusting do you do when they're running you down from the backside? What adjusting do you do to stop the rundown from the backside? I asked this question of 2 players, and it kind of got answered. I said, what happens if Jake Fromm, who's a true freshman, has to throw Georgia back into a game, and what happens if Brandon Wimbush has to throw Notre Dame into a game? And both those, at least for the Saturday, got answered in a negative way. And we saw what Auburn did to Georgia, and we saw Brandon Wimbush at one point got pulled from the game for the backup, and then he got put in again in the third quarter. They just you know what? They were a step slower than Miami, and they were not executing, and Miami was. So we can sit there and talk about it from the Notre Dame side. And listen, for Notre Dame, it's over. Notre Dame doesn't have a conference championship to play for. Miami found out before that game they were playing in the ACC championship.
Right.
When Virginia lost, they were going to be in the ACC championship game. So they had that no matter what. But where they are, they have bigger aspirations, and they took a monster step in getting there. Manny Diaz, a D coordinator, give him tons of credit for what he did. This is a bludgeoning offense by Notre Dame in running the ball, and they never had to pass a ton for it because they ran so well. He came in and basically said, we are hammering you on the run. We have guys flying all over the place. They created 4 turnovers. That turnover chain came out 4 times, one of them a pick 6. Notre Dame had only turned the ball over, I think, 7 times or something like that leading into that game. Miami got 4 on them. That's what Miami does. So credit them. As I said, Notre Dame looked a step slow and was not executing at all. And they got put in a position that they weren't used to, and that's throwing themselves back into a game, and they just don't have the firepower to be able to do that. So, and that's all a credit to Miami, who now play Virginia and Pitt. Don't blow it, guys. I mean, they got to move past this one now. It was a monster win for their program. It is all right in front of them. I think they're going to be in the top 4 after the rankings tomorrow night. They have Virginia, they have Pitt, and then they have the monster ACC title game with Clemson as Clemson sits there with 1 loss. So it is right there for them. They earned it. They deserved it. I'm not going to lie. I certainly had some flashbacks because that's the same stadium that my boys played on in the national championship game back in 2013 against Alabama, and that one got away from Notre Dame early, just like this one did. you have to say it, Greeny. I mean, Notre Dame can't win that big game. That monster game from that title game to the Fiesta Bowl against Ohio State was a monster game. This was a huge game, kind of a defining game that can keep you on the road where you need to be. And Notre Dame has struggled to win those games. That's just, I mean, it's right there on the scoreboard. And losing those games big. That's the issue. It'd be one thing if, it's this last-second field goal and you're like, man, we're right there. But it wasn't. It wasn't. And then that's a tough pill to swallow for Notre Dame when you're not in the conference. Now, everybody talked about the playoffs and maybe a national championship game, and now it's, okay, what bowl do you end up in? Because it's done. They're not going to play for the title, and they don't play for a conference title, and that's their own choosing, not being a conference, and I'm fine with that. But that quickly, man, in 4 hours, man, all of a sudden the goals are a little different now.
It was a remarkable day in college football, starting with all of the festivities at game day down there in Coral Gables, and then leading all the way up to that game and the others. And I had a little bit of a cold. I literally watched everything on Saturday. There's nothing from the college football Saturday I didn't see. And so here are my overall takeaways, or where I think it all nets out. If I were voting, here's how I would put the four right now. I would put Alabama 1. I would put Miami 2. I would put Oklahoma 3. And I would put Clemson 4. If you wanted to flip-flop Miami and Alabama, I would have no issue with it.
I agree. I think that'll be the 4 in the order. The order is going to be the order because, again, if it's Clemson and Miami, they're going to play one another. Right. Now are you going to have the same discussion as we go forward with that we had with Georgia and Alabama? Well, we now have that with Miami and Clemson.
That brings me to my next point, which is I think the paths are pretty clear. SEC, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, one spot. I believe one of those three gets in. If Bama beats Auburn, then whoever winds up in the championship game, it'll be Georgia against either Alabama or Auburn. Now, of course, Alabama and Auburn both play their the Louisiana Monroes of the world this week.
I'm sorry.
So they're not going to lose that game.
This week they have their kind of.
They're going to win. Winner of that game goes on and plays Georgia. The winner of that game gets in, and in my opinion, that's it. I think that all the talk with Georgia losing to Auburn the way they did, the talk of the loser of that game getting in is over, even if it's Alabama. Now, a lot of people are saying, Greeny, how about Alabama? A one-loss Alabama, if they lose close to Georgia in the SEC championship game, do you think there's still talk of them getting in? They had a very tough time with Mississippi State. That was a great football game, by the way.
That was a great game.
A terrific game to watch.
Oh, Mississippi State, I thought was going to try and go for it.
I didn't like the way that they coached the end of that game, to be honest with you. But whatever. Alabama found a way to win.
Alabama, I think, is going to maybe stay number one. I see your point about Miami, but if they're number one all the way to losing possibly a one-point game in the SEC title game, there's still going to be argument that they might still be in it. But
if you look at the totality of their schedule, it'll be tough to justify.
I think I'm with you. I'm going to go along with your premise and say one team from the SEC.
Next,
I'll do it. Okay.
Clemson, Miami. I wrote down one spot, and here's why. Because I believe Oklahoma, if they win out, they're in. And I believe Wisconsin, if they went out, they're in. And a lot of people tweeted at me, well, Greeny, you don't have Wisconsin in the Final Four in your top four right now. No, I don't. But if they beat Michigan, which they have this week, and then they beat Ohio State for the Big Ten championship, and they are unbeaten, I believe they deserve a spot.
Not having them in the four doesn't matter right now because two of the teams in the 4-1 would lose. So that's basically what you're saying.
Well, the real question mark, however, is if Clemson beats Miami in a close game in the ACC title game, and Miami has one loss and it's to Clemson, and Wisconsin is unbeaten, does Miami still get in? That, to me, is the only real question mark of the other four.
Does it come down to what Wisconsin does in the Big Ten championship game? Do they win a squeaker? Or do they really assert themselves and blow out the team that they're playing against?
Maybe.
When score isn't supposed to matter, it most certainly can. Because we're talking about close losses or blowouts as far as separating points. And I don't think when you're talking about top teams, I don't think that's an unfair thing to do.
So to me, those are the only teams that have a shot. People are talking about Ohio State. Look, Ohio State got blown out at Iowa. Blown out.
Yeah, Ohio State's not getting unless this thing goes messed craziness up where Miami loses either Virginia or Pitt before the title, because Miami and Clemson are set for the ACC championship game. There's nothing that can stop that. So Miami needs to not trip up before that, right?
Right.
Those are some of the things that could mess it up.
What could happen is that Miami could beat Clemson handily in the ACC championship game.
Oh, Clemson's out.
And Clemson's out, but then Ohio State could, if you're looking for where does Ohio State try and get in, if Ohio State beats Wisconsin,
right,
and if they beat, let's say, the last time Ohio State played Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game, I think the final score was 71-0.
Yeah, it was
59-0.
At that point,
it was
matter.
close. And that's how they got in. And they wound up winning the whole thing. So, I mean, is there a path for Ohio State? It's a theoretical one, but I think it requires a lot of other things going their way.
I would agree as well.
To me, that it's as simple as that. If all those teams do what they're supposed to do, the only wrinkle is, does the committee decide to put in a one-loss Miami over an unbeaten Wisconsin?
Right.
And let me tell you, you know how the people at the Big Ten operate. If you're one who is dying to see 8 teams in the playoff, that's your best path to that.
Yeah, Wisconsin just got helped a lot by Notre Dame losing. No doubt about that. That opened up that slot.
Wisconsin pitched a shutout in their game against Iowa this week. They gave up 14 points, and they were both on pick sixes. So, I mean, their defense is that good. By the way, for what it's worth, right now, Wisconsin would be a 7.5-point underdog in the Big Ten title game against Ohio State. Ohio State beats them. That opens up the door for one more team. There's an opening for one team, and in theory, it could be Ohio State, but I wouldn't think so.
How about that Alabama-Auburn game coming up? Holy smokes.
It's great.
The best of Mike and Mike.
All right, back on the field we go here, talking football on a Monday with Jeff Saturday on Mike and Mike. Good morning, Jeff.
Morning.
I want to ask you a question I asked Golic a few moments ago, because Atlanta-Dallas yesterday was interesting in a lot of different ways, including the owners not speaking to each other before the game. But then the Falcons looked like a team that we sort of haven't seen all year. And the Cowboys look like a team that is not going to give anybody the kind of run they looked the last few weeks. So which was more real to you? Do we learn more about the Falcons and what they're going to be the rest of the way, or more about the Cowboys and what they're going to be the rest of the way yesterday?
I think the Cowboys. I think, listen, when you look at the way that they lost that game yesterday, Tyron Smith being out, obviously it was a huge issue. But Zeke Elliott, I think it goes understated at how important it is. We talk about the Cowboys' offensive line, which is a good offensive line, but it's not the same offensive line, right? They replaced a left guard and a right tackle last year before we even had the injury to Smith, but before yesterday's game. Ezekiel, in any really good running back, I'm not just taking it just from Elliott, but any really good running back covers a lot of blemishes that can happen up front, and vice versa. So when a back's not having a great day, when you bust open some big holes and he gets through it and kind of gets back into his rhythm, that's where the offensive line fits. There's also a lot of times when, as an offensive lineman, you're on the edge. You don't have a block seated quite as well as you'd like. You're not quite where you want to be, and he blows through the arm tackle, or he sets the block up by really jamming his leg in the ground and cutting back behind you. He makes you look better than you're really blocking it. They go hand in hand, similar to a marriage. I say it all the time. It's, when the husband's struggling, the wife's got to pick it up, and vice versa. Same way O-line and running back. With him not being there, you can tell no one's really comfortable. Dak's not nearly as comfortable, and then you add on top the disaster that was at left tackle. And listen, it is on the left tackle, and I heard Green take a ton of – I heard Bell, those guys stood up.
Did, yep.
But listen, you got to help. I mean, it's a train wreck and an absolute disaster, and you and I both know you'll walk off the field, you can see in a guy's eyes, hey, I'm overwhelmed. I can't do this. You know I can't do it. I know I can't do it for whatever reason. Maybe it's technique. Maybe it's just a bad day. Maybe the guy's just that good. I think it was a little of everything yesterday, right? Claiborne hasn't done that in the past. All of a sudden, he's having a lights-out day. Your technique goes bad. But you got to help him. I mean, you got to slide his way. You got to either keep a back in there, keep a tight end. I don't care if it's every play, and you have to adjust, because no play is going to get off when it's happening that fast.
How do they not? This is the NFL. We talked about this a lot with the Giants line early on and not helping Flowers.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
This is one of the best lines in the league. Now, certainly playing undermanned with not having Smith out there, but how do you watch a guy go around a guy time after time after time and not do anything?
It's one guy.
One guy.
It's one guy.
It's not like he was moving up and down the line.
Right. It's not like he J.J. Wadded you, right? He went from nose guard to tackle to end. He's moving around. No, he's lined up in the same spot, and you know how to get that taken care of. It is super frustrating for an offensive lineman. And listen, you see technique fail, and it did fail yesterday, but you can help a guy even with a slide when you know know Cooper could come out and help. Overset the daylights out of him. Make the guy come inside where he's forcing into a double team, even if you can't chip or put a tight end. But really, really a frustrating day, I think, from the Cowboys. And then the Falcons on the other side just took advantage. I mean, Julio had a much better day than he has. Ryan played well. It concerns me with Freeman going out because, again, if this Falcons team wants to get back to who they were last year offensively, it has to go through Freeman and Coleman, or if Freeman's out, Coleman, whatever running back by committee they have to have. That offense only goes when that run game goes and starts hanging up those 30 points. And you're seeing it in every good offense right now. The run game is establishing and moving forward.
I was amazed at that, at the lack of adjustment. I could not believe that they wouldn't help him at all. Over to the positive side, a team that we always say teams are built for a certain thing, and we talk about teams in a dome. Are they built for a dome? What about the Saints?
Oh.
The Saints went to Buffalo. The Saints are 4-0 outside right now. They're plus 87 scoring outside right now.
Yes.
When the weather starts to get bad, if you don't have a playoff game, at home and it's in a cold place, what this team is doing running the ball on defense, you know what you have with Breeze, but everybody has to be buying into them now.
It's absolutely unbelievable. And when you look at how well this offensive line is blocking, how many plays I have pulled down on tape where Ingram and Kamara are literally through the line of scrimmage before they're getting touched. And then Peyton is using them, and you can tell the creativity is back in his game, whether it's in the screen game, Kamara sliding out in the slip screen, or yesterday the little fake the jet sweep, and they're pitching it to Kamara on the weak side, pulling a tackle one time. The next time they don't block him, and they leave Shaq Lawson one-on-one with Kamara.
Yeah.
Listen, it's like Sean. It's like Sean Payton. It's Merry Christmas, right? If it's anything you do, you're going to do it right. It's a gift, and it just keeps on giving. But to your point, and give the tight ends and the receivers a ton of credit, because how you get from 5 and 8-yard gains to those big plus 30s are because those guys are blocking and they look lights out. And to beat Buffalo the way they did in Buffalo, man, in the cold, you wouldn't have said that about a Drew Brees team, a couple years ago.
Yeah, it is remarkable when you consider what we would have expected from them and what they are. From the moment you fell in love with the Bills, they've been terrible.
Terrible.
I bought,
and it was a disaster. Wow. And I hesitantly, I bought, and I shouldn't have bought. That's what happens.
You bought high and you're selling
low.
Yeah.
Selling very low.
On the Buffalo Bills. Jeff Saturday with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. And you know that things are going your way when you're the Philadelphia Eagles. They even won their bye week.
Yeah.
They didn't play this week, but Dallas lost, Washington lost, and the Giants continue to lose.
Oh.
And what I tried to identify, because I can't sit up here and say that players have quit.
Right.
That's not a word I'm ever going to attach, because I don't think I'm trained to see that. And that I am well aware of just how damning of a criticism that is. I can tell when someone's playing badly. I can't sit here and tell you they're not giving you any effort. But I got Louis Riddick on Twitter watching that game saying, I'm seeing full-on quit going on these fields out here. He didn't mention the Giants in particular, but I think it's pretty obvious that's what he was talking about. And Ryan Clark was talking about it yesterday as well. Now, all the conversation about the coach, and he says, well, it's their job to motivate themselves. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, as you're watching, especially on the defensive side, but I talked about this early in the year. When you have an offense, and this is when OBJ was healthy. This is when everyone everybody was built to continue to win, right? They'd never addressed the offensive line in the offseason from the Giants' perspective. Run game was going to be okay, maybe decent, but nothing that you can hang your hat on. When all of their skill guys begin to go down, you saw the wear on this defense. And what happens is, as it accumulates, you see them just begin to get more and more frustrated, because that's where, every team has a thing where you're going to hang your hat, right? On the Colts, we hung our hat on offense. Now, when the defense lit it up and played great, we're going to win a bunch of games, including the Super Bowl. But everybody knows what their kind of bell cow is. This is what it is. The defense for the Giants were that. The money they spent a few years ago, they knew that was going to be. Their defense has struggled, and to your point about quitting, they are not giving full effort in. When the play goes bad, it's going real bad, because you're seeing guys stay blocked, not try to re-rip to get off of blocks. They're not desperate to make a play. When you go watch games that are competitive, you see guys who are getting off blocks and making every effort, even if they're not making the play, to get home. And you're seeing it happen more and more often on that Giants defense, where once a play gets past the line of scrimmage, the back puts his foot in the ground and gives a little wiggle. All of a sudden, there's 3 guys near him and nobody's getting to him. And that's got to be frustrating. And I get McAdoo's point of everybody gets paid, and that's true. But there's also a point where the frustration level and your locker room, it's so toxic, it's really tough to recover. And you hate to say it, but that's kind of where it is from the Giants' perspective on that side of the ball.
So is the criticism of the coach warranted?
Oh, I think there's plenty of blame to go around. And listen, plenty from the player's perspective, and I'll say this, and we used to say this in our locker room all the time, be careful thinking the coach should go, because when the coach goes, there's a lot of players going too, because the new guys coming in, they don't have any love for you, right? That coach probably had a lot to do with you staying on that squad and being there. And I remember one of the most insecure times of my career was when Tony Dungy took Jim Mora's job, and I thought, oh, man, they run a power offense. It's all power. It's going to be tough for me to fit in. Tony Dungy's a great guy, but he may not like the way that I played the position, and he could have easily moved me on. If McAdoo goes, all these guys who are screaming, hey, we need a new coach, guess what? They may be finding a new team as well, so be careful what you wish for.
We talked a lot about it leading into last weekend. It was one of the most loaded college football weekends that we've ever seen, with all these ranked matchups.
I'm very upset at Gus Malzahn and Auburn. I mean, I was looking forward to the weekend, so we had 3 spotlight games. You had Ohio State, Michigan State blowout. You had the Notre Dame-Miami game, which obviously I was very interested in going to Notre Dame, my kids there at then. And that turned out to be a blowout. At the 3:30 game, we had Georgia and Auburn. Okay, let's make this a good game, and his Auburn team blows out Georgia. What are you going to do?
He probably didn't feel too badly about it. Here he is, the coach of the Auburn Tigers, played their way into the national championship discussion with that win. And the coach joins us here on Mike and Mike. Good morning, Coach. Congratulations.
Hey, good morning. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for taking a few minutes today. And I know that there'll be a lot of attention paid to the performance of your quarterback with 4 total touchdowns. But let's talk about your defense and the job that they did. You allowed a touchdown on the opening drive, and then after that, you basically shut them down for the rest of the time that game was a game. Why was your defense so successful on Saturday?
I tell you, we played real good defense all year, and they did have a good drive. Give those credit, and went down and scored. We made the adjustments. Very proud of our defensive front. Our defensive front's one of the best in the country, and our run fits were very good because Georgia's run game is one of the best. The 2 running backs they have are as good as anybody, and for us to hold those guys to 46 yards rushing was really something. Incredible.
They carried the ball 32 times for 46 yards. You guys ran it 46 for 237. Now, certainly as a coach, you wait till there's all zeros on the clock till you really know you secured the victory, but you also know players and been around a lot of games. Was there a point in this game where you just said, man, this is real, our guys are looking about as good as they can look right now, and you really thought things were in your favor?
Yeah, I tell you, when we went up by 30 points and scored the touchdown, it was, I can't remember how many minutes were left on the clock, but you were able to enjoy it. And, we've had some tough games this year and tough times, and our guys have overcome adversity, and it was just a really special moment that we played our best game, when we needed to. And we beat a very good team soundly, and we're playing good football right now.
It's nice to hear a coach say that during a game you were able to enjoy it, because sometimes, you guys are thought of as robots where you just don't enjoy it, you never can, and as soon as you win, you move on to the next game. Were the players that way as well on the sideline? I mean, was this one of those where you actually got to smell the roses a little bit even before the game was over?
Yeah, there's no doubt, and it was great to see our players, have fun playing a great game of football in a big game in a big environment. Our fans were off the charts, and of course I've been here 8 years and been fortunate to be a part of some huge games in our stadium, and last Saturday night was as good as it gets.
I was also thinking, Gus Malzahn, head coach of Auburn, is with us, also thinking that you had that time to consider and contemplate what you wanted to say to your players, because you're also well aware that you didn't just win a game. You played yourself directly into the SEC championship conversation. You played yourself directly into the national championship conversation. So we've been doing that like crazy from the moment that game ended on Saturday. And here's Auburn's path. They beat Alabama, they beat Georgia again, and boom, they're playing in the Final Four. What did you say to your team about the consequences of that win?
Yeah, I just want them to enjoy the moment. I guess a few weeks back we said, we got to win 5 in a row, and that was number 3. I wanted them to enjoy it. Of course, we have Lose Them in a row this week, and our focus is on them. And I know everybody else is talking about the next one, but it'll be big enough, and our guys will be ready for that. We can't get distracted. I mean, you see every week top teams in the country after big wins get distracted, and we can't fall in that category. We've got to stay focused and just take care of Lose Them in a row, and then we'll cross that bridge the next week.
Do you do something special for that? Because while you can do that as a coach, you realize these are 18 to 22-year-olds who all of a sudden everybody, on the outside is going to look at the game coming up and say, oh, this is a breather for them before they get to Alabama. And they're going to hear and read on Twitter and everywhere that, man, they run this table. They're going to be in the Final Four. So for you, it's one thing. For these young men, it's a little different. So is there an exercise you have to go through to get that across to them?
Yeah, Mike, you're exactly right. And, I'm just very honest with our team and up front. We had that exact conversation yesterday at our team meeting. And we got to be different. We can't be like every other team because it is real. When they turn on ESPN or listen to the radio or Twitter or anything like that, that's all they're going to hear. But we got to be better than that, and we got to be disciplined and just take care of one game at a time. So, we got really good leadership, and I will be very surprised if we don't do that.
In how it works, from the public side, you talk about teams that are in the higher in the rankings and stuff, and you guys are starting to put yourself now. But with the 2 losses, there hadn't been a lot of talk about your team. Give us something about your team. Tell us why Auburn is as good as they are right now, and we are talking about you in the Final Four if you're able to run the table.
Yeah, we have a talented team. We have a team that we felt like would have a chance to win the SEC championship, before the season started. We experienced some growing pains on offense. We had a new quarterback, and he's a very talented quarterback. We had a new offensive coordinator. It just took a little time to gel, and obviously we played, Clemson early on, didn't play well, but we learned from it. We had a tough loss on the road at LSU where we were up 20 points, and they came back and beat us, and, we faced major adversity. And when you do that, you either get better or you fold your tent. Our guys decided to get better. They rolled their sleeves up, and they're in a real good spot right now.
Tell us about that, because when we always talk about losing early, losing late, you lose early to Clemson, but they're sitting there at number 3. It's definitely a loss you guys can overcome, playing through the rest of the season. But then you lose in October. You lose that game 27-23 to LSU. Where a lot of people think, 2 losses, that's kind of the death knell for a college playoff. So take us to that week and what you told the players and how they reacted to everything.
Well, we knew we were going to face major adversity, from everyone and everywhere. And we just said we can do 1 or 2 things. And our leadership decided to buckle up and finish this thing. And we knew we controlled our own destiny. So we just had a plan and a blueprint moving forward for that. And so far they followed it to a T.
Will you be paying attention to tomorrow night? There's a lot of discussion about where your team will fall in the new college football playoff rankings, and maybe it doesn't make any difference because you have these monster games still in front of you. But will you pay attention to where you wind up tomorrow?
No, just to be honest with you, we won't, because we know we already played the number 1 team, and we're probably going to play another number 1 team. And then, of course, if you win that, you go to the SEC championship and probably play a top 5 team. So, I think the ball's in our court, and so we just got to seize the moment.
There's no question about that. Hey, Coach, congratulations. It was a sensational performance, and we're looking forward to watching what happens next. Good luck.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
The best of Mike and Mike.
I would say, Mike, of the truly great stars in sports, candidly, of any era, there has been none that has been better to us over the years than Magic Johnson.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. The way we did a couple of wagers we've done over the years, and the way he gets into them has been one of the highlights that we show in some of our TV-only spots is when he hit me in the face with the pies when Michigan State beat Notre Dame. How excited he was to do that almost scared me. Quite honestly, a little bit. Almost scared me. The joy he got out of pummeling me with 2 pies to the face.
And here to say a cheerful hello on this Monday morning is the one, the only Irvin Magic Johnson. Good morning, Magic.
Mike and Mike, how you doing, man?
Well, we just enjoyed watching over again that magic moment where you hit Golic with the pie, and then afterwards you said, that all those years where you played against Michael Jordan and you played against Larry Bird and you met all the presidents, that moment when you hit Golic in the face with the pie was actually better. Now that you've had some time to let it sink in, do you still feel that was actually your greatest ever moment?
Oh, I definitely feel that way. I'm a competitive guy, and so that was the most fun I've had. And thank you, Mike, for being just a guy that we've gone back and forth. And let me say to both of you, I'm mad at both of you because I'm 0-2 this season against both of you. Mm-hmm. Northwestern beat my Spartans, and Notre Dame blew my Spartans out as well. So this is not a good day for me to be talking to both of you because you both have beat my Spartans this year. But I want to just say thank you for entertaining us for almost 20 years and also giving us some incredible sports and just breaking down every league, every championship. And you guys did it with such grace and style and charisma all at the same time. And then you allow guys like myself to have share your platform and give our opinions. And so it's been so much fun. But the good thing is we're not saying goodbye because both of you are going to have an incredible new show. And I look forward to seeing what both of you are going to do. And God has just blessed all of us viewers that you wake us up in the morning and give us all our sports analogy and analyze the different teams. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to be a part of the Mike and Mike show for, 18 years.
Well, that's really nice of you, Magic. We really do appreciate that and look forward to it in our new shows again to continue to have you on. And both Greeny and I are bummed we didn't make bets with you this year, quite honestly. On the Michigan, we blew it there. But what's interesting is,
Well, let's do it on the new shows. How about that?
There you go. And as we go on to new things, obviously what you've done since your career has been incredible. And now you've added to it with running, the Los Angeles Lakers, a team that you are synonymous with as one of the greatest of all time to play. So how has that been for you? I know we talked about ownership with the Dodgers and the businesses you do, but here you are running your Lakers. Has it been everything you thought it would be at this point?
Well, it's definitely been everything I thought it would be. I knew coming in that we had a young group, and that's how we have to build it through the youth. And we see that we have some really good young pieces. And you saw the other night, Lonzo Ball became the youngest to ever get a triple-double. And then we got Kyle Kuzma that we're building around as well, KCP, and then, some veterans like Brook Lopez. So Brandon Ingram is, I think, going to be a star in the league. So we're building around some very, very young pieces, and our fan base is really excited about these young men because they're playing hard every night. We're in every game. And so that's all I want. I want us to grow and get better. And as we see when the other teams come down, some of the older teams come down, then we'll be going up. And I think that's what we're looking forward to.
I would jokingly say the only reason he became the youngest player ever to record a triple-double, Magic, is because you played 2 years of college.
Very true.
But having said that, with Lonzo, for a variety of reasons, the fact that you handpicked him and he's there in L.A. and you're bringing back Showtime and all the stuff with his dad. I mean, every game there's such a microscope on him. It feels like every single game he plays is a referendum on whether he's that good or he isn't. What kinds of conversations have you had with him about all of that pressure and all of that attention?
Well, Mike, that's a great question. And what I try to do is just really say, hey, just play your game. Because born and raised in Los Angeles, always wanted to play for the Lakers. And then, like you said, LeVar, making comments. I think that going in, we thought that LeBron James was the biggest rookie ever, in terms of most publicized. And then now here comes Lonzo Ball in terms of publicity-wise, and because of social media and all that, he was a guy with a target on his back because of his father and being drafted number 2 pick. And so I think he's handled it well. And, of course, he's not shooting the way he would like to shoot, but I think that that will come. We saw it the other night. He hit a couple threes. He shot the ball well. What we want him to do, where he's at his best, is when he is pushing that basketball and when he is relentless at pushing it. And so, and then he all his game really comes together when he's doing that, when he's playing with aggression and he's going downhill. And so just play that way, play your game, and then let everything else come together. And I tell you what, though, the guys really love playing with him because if you're open, he's going to get you the ball. And that's the type of guy these guys want to play with, the pass-first guy. Also, he's a winner. He's won at every level. So we know that once we surround him with all the pieces like we have, like I said, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, all the young players we have, and then we have cap space that we clear so we can sign a couple of veterans hopefully next offseason. Then we're moving into saying, hey, we're a playoff team and we're a championship team.
Yeah, let's not talk about anybody potentially you can bring in.
No.
We don't want to go down that road again.
No. We don't want to say that Magic Johnson on Mike and Mike got in trouble, got fined. We don't want to be doing that. Not on your last week and everything.
I'm with you, and you're so right about Alonzo. Watching him play, it makes players, I think, hustle more, knowing if they get just a bit open that he's going to find them with the ball, and it is fun to watch his vision on the court. But in a general question, in my sport of football, sometimes when a quarterback comes in with a different kind of release, a throwing point, the coaching staff is kind of at a dilemma. Do we try and mess with it, or do we kind of let it be? A guy like Phillip Rivers, everybody talked about his delivery. They let it be, and the guy, has had a great career. Others, they try and tweak and change. How does it work in basketball? We all see how Lonzo shoots the ball, and as you say, he's struggling shooting. Do you try and change what he does, or in that sport, you kind of just let somebody work through it how they need to?
Yeah, I think it's a fine line because what you have to do is first, he's been shooting that way his whole life. So what we wanted to do was just let him play his game, let him shoot the way he's been shooting, and hopefully, they'll go in. And so we're not going to mess with it. We're going to let him shoot and play his game. And if after the season he's not shooting well, then we'll sit down with him and say, hey, let's maybe look at a different way, or let's try to improve the way you are shooting. What is it that caused you not to shoot well? Is it your balance? Is it the fact that you didn't release it well? So we can break it down with him, but we don't want to mess with his shot. He's proven that he's knocked that shot down, and we want him to encourage him to keep shooting. And like I said, against Milwaukee the other night, he had 2 or 3 of those go in, 3-pointers. So maybe it's coming back for him now. And also we have to remember something. They're playing more games in terms of these rookies than they've ever played in their lives. And I'm talking about in a week. They may play 3 games in a week. So also we're talking about dead legs too. So I think once he gets into shape, his legs get used to playing this many games in a week that they don't play in college, then I think he'll be okay.
Talking to Magic Johnson, the Lakers president of basketball operations. Another kind of a general question. You mentioned some of the guys, Kuzma's 22, Ingram 20, Ball 20, young players. So young players now in professional sports and in the NBA, back when you were a young player to the young players now, give us some of the biggest differences of players, the youth of professional athletes today with all the outside noise involved of social media and just the differences of when you were a young player to now.
I think you just said it right there. It's 2 things. It's social media and everybody having a voice. When you and I played, only the stars had a voice, right? And all the media just ran to them and quoted them. And now, because of social media, everybody has a voice. So now, as a president, I got to monitor 15 guys, what they're doing on social media, what they're saying. And then guys today really care about their brand. And so you and I didn't know what a brand was when we played. We just went out there and played and tried to be the best player we could on a nightly basis. And so now, we have that as a factor as well. I think, and then last but not least in basketball, and you can tell me more about football, When I played, probably 3 out of 100 shots were three-pointers. Now, 40% of every shot out of 100 is a three-pointer. Mm-hmm. And so now the game has really changed where you used to go inside out. Now you go outside in. And so I think those are the biggest differences in terms of what I went through and what today's player goes through. And now if you're a big man, you got to have a jump shot now. You got to have be able to go out to the three-point range. And if you can't, it's hard for you to play in our league today.
Mike and Mike, the great Magic Johnson is with us, and it just feels like the right time to ask you a big-picture question. So I'd ask you this. You and Larry came into the league together. My goodness, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but it's almost 40 years ago now, and are credited with having sort of taken the NBA to entirely new heights, and I think 100% rightly so. I feel like we're seeing that happening again in the NBA right now. I feel this is a great time for the sport. I feel like there's a ton of young stars, a ton of attention. Television ratings are good. The conversation around the sport is bigger and better. I'd love to just get a thought from you on where you feel the NBA is right now.
Oh, it's at the highest level we've ever seen it. Greeny, in the spring and summer, we've never dominated the headlines. It's normally football. And this summer, with all the movement, all the different players changing teams, basically players going from the east to the west, I guess you could say, and then that big move where Kyrie went to Boston. Actually, the NBA actually dominated the news for the first time in 40 years that I've ever been a part of the league in the off season, and that's carried over into this season where everybody was anticipating what Boston would look like with Kyrie, what Cleveland would look like, without Kyrie, and then you got OKC bringing in two big stars, and on and on and on. Minnesota doing a wonderful job of trading for Butler, and how would they look together? And so I think that we've been on fire as a league, and then we had some incredible rookies coming in, and who have really, played well for their teams, including Lonzo for us. So this has been an incredible off season for the NBA, and the season is shaping up to be a great season as well. So I think we're going to see, as the season goes along, that the young fans are really gravitating to the NBA, and we in MLB, we have to do a better job of getting young people to watch our sport. Well, we had a great series, Houston and my Dodgers, and we had a lot of people watching. But during the regular season, and so we don't have young people, and we need to get more and more young people watching baseball. And so that's the rise for the NBA. Young people are watching the game. And I think because it's exciting, it's up and down, and then our superstars play like superstars, and those young people gravitate to those stars.
Talk about that. Part owner of the Dodgers as you are. Talk about that run and watching them. They dominated the headlines certainly for a lot of the season. Went into Kershaw goes out. Went into that tailspin a bit, but then ended up where a lot of people thought they would in the World Series, falling one game short. How was that from your position watching that?
Oh, it was the greatest ride that I could ever have, Mike. And you're sitting there, and every game was just a nail biter and exciting. And it was so much fun for me and for our ownership group, but also for our players and definitely for our fans. The Dodger fans were out in groves. They were enjoying every minute because we hadn't been in, 28 years or so to the World Series. I want to congratulate Houston. They played an incredible series. And so we feel that we can get back there again because we have two young studs in Bellinger and Seager, and we still have Kershaw on the mound and others. So we have the big redhead guy, Justin Turner, and we still have the best closer in baseball, and Jansen. So we feel that we're going to be back again. I think that we're excited. The fan base is excited, but it was nail biting for me because. As a player, you can help decide the outcome of the game. Now, as an owner, you sit there and you're sweating like you out there playing. I was like, I was going crazy. Every pitch, every hit, you go crazy and crazy. So, but so much fun. I grew up a Tiger fan, and then I could come and now be a big Dodger fan and an owner. So it's great.
Magic, listen, I don't even know how to put into words how much we have enjoyed and appreciated this friendship that we've developed with you over the years. And, yes, we will be seeing you again, but feels at the right time to just to say we love you. Thank you very much for everything you've done for us over all these years.
Well, thank you, too. And also, I want to thank both of you for being incredible husbands and fathers. A lot of times that goes overlooked. You know, I love when you guys talk about your kids, and whether it's funny or whether it's a joke or whether it's serious. And you talk about, Mike, how you got AAU with your son. And then the other Mike, I can see you and your son calling games. You called the college game the other night. It was really funny. And also your commercial was really funny with your son. And I think that goes overlooked because a lot of dads out here like myself look to other people and other men to see how they are as fathers. So that's really important to me. So God bless both of you. Continue success on your new shows, and I can't wait to be on both shows, okay?
Thank you, Magic. Appreciate it a million. Take care. Have a great week. Wow.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha. Night. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.